James Robert Elliott here. I am with my friend Dave Feldman, and we are going to be talking today about raising your leadership bar with virtues. So welcome, Dave.
Good morning. How are you, James?
I'm well, brother. Well, and yourself, it's good to have you here, man.
Good.
I was excited about having you on because you do something that's very unique, very interesting, and of course, very valuable. So tell us, I suppose, what are virtues? Because virtues can be, I suppose, any number of things. But what is the virtues definition here? What are we talking about? And then we'll get into really cool stuff.
Well, first of all, thank you for including me today, and I appreciate your commitment to elevating, all that's good in both us as individuals, but us as leaders, as communicators, as business people, and everything else. So. Virtues, it's an interesting thing. Virtues are these things that have been around forever. They're from the sacred text, oral traditions. They cut across all religions. What they are universal positive qualities of character. They're a thing that we all have in us. We're all perseverance, determination, love, kindness, resilience. Yes, you got some of them in the background out back there. They're things who define who we are. They're different than values. Values is sometimes our subjective belief. So honesty is a virtue. We might view honesty very different. That's a value, how we perceive that. So, but we all have these different things in them. I can go on. There's a whole range of them: kindness, caring, consideration, acceptance, justice, fairness, and so forth. So they're human. It's what makes us human, humanity. So, and these are things that can be cultivated. There are things that we have, but like anything, we practice and we learn to get better at certain kinds of things.
Fair. And I agree with you. I don't think a leader is necessarily born. I think a leader is created, and anyone can become a leader. I mean, years ago, myself, bullied, overweight, depressed, and on and on. I didn't think I'd become a leader. I had no idea I would become here now. No idea to have not to make this the James show, but like a best-selling book. Like, seriously, if you told me this when I was 4, I'm a best-selling author. I have a podcast. People see me all over the world. Are you kidding me? Like, I would never have thought of that. But I really believe that everyone can be a leader. I totally believe that. I'm pretty sure you do as well.
So, James, you wrote a book. Let me ask us, what was it? Looking back now, what was it that you had in you that allowed you to write a book? What was it what was that characteristic or
that virtue? I think it was a lot of the perseverance, which is why I love this one. My screen is mirrored, so I'm pointing the wrong way. This one, I think it's a lot of that. Again, going through a lot of stuff in my life and having a rough start to life, like a lot of us, it can either break you down, or if you use it as fuel and to drive you and give you the gifts you need to be that's why it's my perseverance and never give up attitude. I will never give up if I really want to create something or do something, have something, achieve something. So after 3 years of writing the book, going back to the drawing board, over analyzing it, worrying, is this going to be good? Are people going to like it? Are they going to hate on me? Are they going to say it's crap? I got out of my head and said, you know what? I'm going to write this to I think people who need it. I'm going to write it for people who need it. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be real and not sugarcoat things. I'm going to tell you my story and some things that have really helped me, and just raw, real, and authentic. Again, I guess those are virtues, I suppose. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe they're values, but that was the thing. It's like I was determined. So determination and perseverance to get this message out, because I know I wanted it out there. I know I wanted my message out, and I wanted to help people.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And that's, you were on it. I mean, a lot of those were virtues. I mean, perseverance clearly is a virtue. Commitment, determination. You also had a passion. You had understanding and discernment, because to write a book, you had to have some wisdom around particular areas of what you're doing. So, again, those are virtues. And I'm hoping you even had some passion and joy along the way, with typically a labor of love of something like that. And those are things you cultivate.
Usually they are, right? Yeah. No, you're right. Usually it is. And that's a good, I guess, aside for anyone wanting to do anything, including write a book or start a business or go into management or get a promotion or be a bigger leader. It's like, what is that commitment? And are you willing to do anything you can, ethically, morally, of course, legally, to get what you want and have what you want, and to avoid worrying? Because what stopped me was, are people going to think the book is crap? Am I going to look bad by publishing the book? And that stops probably 99% of people from doing anything. They worry about what will, like our parents, what will people say, you know, when you were kids, what will people say? What will people think? But I stopped caring. It's like, I'm going to write this for people who need it. And some people will love it. Some people may hate it. That's okay. Because if I don't write it, then the people who need it are not going to get it. And that the cost, it was too big for me for that.
So you're practicing a virtue that actually a lot of people don't think is a virtue, but it's actually one of those important ones.
Oh, wow.
It's detachment. And, you know, in the Buddhist religion, that's a very important thing. Is you talk about detachment. It's like, you know, this is not me. And to allow yourself to detach, it frees you up in a lot of ways. So, yeah, that's good for you, because you're doing it for your own reasons and the right reasons. And, you know, we all can get called to being everybody else's, writing and thinking for everybody else. And yes, you want to focus on your audience. But, you know, at the end of the day, you're telling your story.
And that's the thing. That's the, you know, talk to us a little more about detachment, because I think that is very powerful. And a lot of what I speak on as well is like, stop trying to please people. Stop worrying what the hell people think about you. It's a recipe for disaster and not getting where you want in life. Trust me, I'm living proof of that. People pleasing is the worst way to be likable. Trying hard to be likable is the worst way.
Exactly.
Just go be your awesome, authentic self.
So
talk to us more about detachment.
Yeah, so I'll give you a little thing. So there's a virtue, there's a deck. I'm gonna see if you can see that well. There's a deck of cards, and this is an app that we've developed of called the Virtues Cards. And within the app, there's a number of different decks that you can get. And they're really inexpensive and they're cheap, and they're actually great for reflection tools. And this is the card of detachment. It's pretty cool. I'll show you what it does. So this is the card detachment. And I'll read it to you. It's a little bit long, but it really is powerful. Yeah, detachment is experiencing our feelings without allowing them to control us. We step back and look at things objectively. We let go and accept that which we cannot change. We detach from others' choices, knowing that their spiritual work is not ours to do. Sure. We choose how we'll act rather than just reacting. We step away from harmful cravings. Detachment is a breath of peace and patience in response to unexpected danger. We can listen without losing ourselves. That's a key right there. We can listen without losing ourselves. Sure. With detachment, we see our mistakes honestly, make amendments, and start afresh. Detachments allow us to be in the world, but not of it. It frees us to lead our lives with grace. And then there's a cool thing you can do here. You can double tap it, and it flips to the back. And on the back, it gives a quote. You always have the choice to take all things evenly, to hold on to nothing, to receive each irritation as if you only have 15 minutes to live. Tolbert McCarroll. There's six practices, and then an affirmation as well. So I don't want to go into that, all those, but that's what detachment is. So James, listening to that, how does detachment resonate? What comes to your mind when you think of detachment after hearing something like that?
It's to your point. It's stopping listening to the peanut gallery or what our religion or culture, society, parents, teachers, brothers, sisters, whoever, our town or city programs into us about you have to, you can't, you should, you shouldn't, this is good, this is bad, and thinking, again, while being a kind, ethical person who wants to, make the world a better place or make an impact anyways, what do I want? And how can I make an impact? How do I be authentic, right? That's what people resonate with. People know when we're being fake. They know we have a mask on. And if you just be real with people, I really think, and detach, because yes, some people are not going to like it. Some people are going to love it. Some people will love you. Some people will hate on you, right? And that's what you want. You don't want the world to love you. You don't want everyone to you don't want the lukewarm. You want people to either love you or dislike you. You want people polarized, because people that just like you and lukewarm, they're never going to work with you. They won't hire you. They won't buy your stuff. They won't promote you, right? They won't marry you. They won't befriend you, right? Your acquaintances, or you're okay. So I like that polarization and detaching and stopping worrying what people think about you. Find your tribe, find your culture. If you're too whatever for some people, then they're not your people. Yeah. And I really think to achieve what we want in our life, we need to detach. That's a really cool one we're first on, is detachment. So
James, but first of all, I want to acknowledge you, and really respect, for your acceptance, because that's a hard one to kind of to really live to sometimes, because there's so much noise out there in the world, and you're constantly, are they liking my posts? Are they responding to me? I mean, in a lot of ways, it's set up to constantly give feedback. And from being able to detach about that and have using your inner wisdom and knowing that is really key. So I appreciate you having that acceptance.
Yeah, man.
And and I'm thinking about that. It's people who are listening who are in a form of leadership, and leadership is a broad category in my mind. I mean, if you're a parent, you're a leader.
Agreed.
Yes, if you're a student, you're leading because you have a voice, you're influencing, you have an idea, and asking somebody to follow you. I mean, certainly in your community, in your organization. I mean, leadership is a quality that shows up in a lot of different ways.
I agree. You're right. It's not just a job. It's a quality. It is a quality. Yeah.
Think about how important detachment is from a leadership standpoint. Because if every time somebody comes to you with their problem sometimes, and you can't detach it, and it becomes your own, you in some ways could become ineffective. You become overwhelmed. You actually take on their programs. Now, it doesn't mean you don't compassionately listen to somebody else's story and give them an understanding. So I want to listen to you and hear what you have to say. I'm engaged with you, but I'm detached. It's not mine to own for yours. So that's a really powerful quality for a leader to be able to internalize that and make that for that individual.
It's a valid point. It's a very, and you're right, not take that on ourselves, and I'm going to say this carefully, but also not buy into someone's story too much, or not buy into the victim part of the story, and encourage someone to not be victim. Okay, this happened. All the crap happened to me in my past. How did it make me stronger, better, more perseverant, more resilient? And yeah, exactly. Detach and not take it on, but also, okay, well, how is this good? How are you now better? And even if 1% of the world loves you, I mean, there's 7.5 billion people in the world. I believe 1% of 7.5 billion is roughly 7.5 million, or something like that. It's millions of people. Even if only 1% of the world likes you, or the rest does not like you, you still have 7.5 million people that love you. So
if you have 7.5 million people, 1% of the world that likes you, I mean, I can't even imagine 1% of the world even knowing who we are, unless you're
fair.
presidential. But yes, I mean, I think, in my mind, yeah, and I appreciate that, because we all want to be, we want to be our best selves. I mean, that's really key. And how do we present ourselves to the world? To be liked, but also, our goal is to uplift people in general. Is just how do we lift people up? Is like, you don't have to like what I'm saying, but we're here, we're of service, and how do we, we're all, many of us, I shouldn't say all, but many of us are in a service business, and it's not always about being liked, but it's a being of help to somebody and giving them, sometimes what they need, or sometimes that's just even a compassionate ear.
Yeah, true. Or sometimes it's tough talk. Sometimes it's something they don't want to hear, but when it's said compassionately, I've never had anyone get mad at me for being real with someone. I'm compassionately real, and sometimes they feel their feathers are ruffled, but they always come back. James, thanks for the tough talk. I needed that. I needed to hear that. You're right. I am doing this, or I'm not doing this, and I needed an awakening. So thank you. So
Yeah.
To your point, said compassionately.
Yeah, James, one of the work that we do, our organization is called Virtues Matter, and we did that intentionally. And we do a lot of work with an organization that's been around for 30 some years called the Virtues Project. And they were created by three amazing individuals who created 5 strategies to bring out the best in yourself and others. And strategy 1 is speaking the language of virtue. So you may have heard I acknowledged you for your perseverance and your resilience, and I gave you evidence. That's a strategy on how to actually show appreciation to different people. And there's a whole range of activities that go into that. One of the strategies is also about companioning, and it's about asking questions. And I actually love that, because a leader sometimes really needs to ask questions. One is to help them understand the situation, but even more importantly is maybe to help you, not you, but the individual who's coming to with a problem, asking them questions to help them find their own solutions sometimes. So it's called companioning. So, by asking those powerful questions, sometimes you can come to your own understanding of those things. And, I'm guiding you, or by not even giving you my opinion of what needs to go on, but by helping you find your own way. And sometimes it's like, what virtue was missing? Oh, you know what? I wasn't patient in that particular situation, or I was enthusiastic. So I did have some area of my life that I was, but I wasn't this area. Or, I had a lot of passion, but I wasn't being very moderate, or, something of that sort. So, it's really interesting that, helping people come to their own by just asking powerful questions.
It's so, I mean, because you're right. And do people like being told what to do? No. But if you ask questions and they self-discover, they're way more likely, way more enrolled to actually do it. And I found that to ask great questions, you get great answers. You can create massive shifts in people just by asking questions. And we've all probably done it. You talk out loud, you talk your problems and thoughts out loud to someone, and you can almost solve your own problem just by talking out loud with someone. I talk out loud to myself because, again, you can solve your own problems that way too. And I talk out loud with mentors, again, because it's a great way, to your point, when they ask questions or you're talking out loud, you often solve your own problems. It sounds like, Dave, that virtues are a really powerful way for leaders to any leader to really see who they are and be reminded of who they are so that they operate at their best. And it's almost like a level of standards, or this is who I am. This is who the leader I want to be is. Almost like a standards. This is who I am. This is what I represent. And perhaps, do you find that if someone is having trouble making a decision, or they don't know whether to decide A or B or C, can looking at their virtues, okay, well, what are my virtues? Perseverance, or execution, or success, or whatever, perseverance. Can that help them if they use those almost as like standards or their own, this is who I am? Can that help lead to great and better decisions?
Oh, absolutely. And that's a really interesting question, in that, sometimes if you're in a situation and you have a tough decision to make, what kind of guidance you need. You may have a life coach, and that you can call someone, phone a friend kind of concept. But often it's just like, okay, what do I need to do in this particular situation? And sometimes, you might need to be purposeful. You might need to be fair. You might need to be serene. You might need to, whatever that is. The interesting thing that I often talk about is that, you have both your strength virtues and your growth virtues. And, when you practice virtues, it's not really a judgment of who you are. It's an opportunity to reflect and be better. So sometimes it's like, oh, wow, I could call on this particular virtue, or I have this virtue in me. I mean, you have all of them in you, but sometimes you don't exercise them. So one of my strength virtues is perseverance. I will work through a challenge on a regular basis, and I will just push. On the flip side, patience sometimes is a growth virtue for me. I have to constantly check myself and say, you know what? It's not who I am sometimes. And it's not, I don't judge myself for it, but I'm aware. It's kind of a mindfulness part of the program. So you're just aware of where your strengths are. So if you're not patient, so it's allowed you to reflect it. So one is, it's understanding what the virtue looks like. And then two, understanding what the practice of it looks like, and how do you integrate that practice into your daily life. So all of those are different kind of ways of implementing it. But they are truly, like any sport, like anything we do in our lives, when you do them more, you get better at them. And we all have them in us. It's just as we forget who we are.
I think you're right. And I think that's what gets us into trouble. It keeps us in places where we don't want to be, or shouldn't be, or anxious. And I think a lot of anxiety happens because we're either doing something we don't want to do, or know we shouldn't be doing, or not doing something we want to do, or we know we should be doing. And it's a good point to check in with your virtues and even your vision. What's your vision in your life? Does this align with your life? Does this align with what you want to have outcome in your life? And what are your virtues? I don't feel like it today, but one of my virtues is I'm compassionate. So I'm going to be compassionate. I'm going to learn. I'm busy, but I'm going to sit here and listen to this person and ask questions, be compassionate to them, even though I'm busy or whatever is going on in my life. I think it's a really great way to help you take action, make decisions that is aligned and congruent with who you are, versus regretting or feeling bad or making a wrong decision, or at least a decision that's not aligned with, again, who you are or your virtues.
Yeah.
Very powerful tool.
I hear your compassion, brother.
Right on, man. Right on. It's one of my groups. We call it ruthlessly compassionate.
Nice.
I will go with you where I need to go with you to get you, the awarenesses, the learnings, the ahas. I'll show you things. I'll hold up your mirror. I'll call BS. I'll bring you out of the victim mentality and say, okay, how can we achieve? How can you win? Versus the victim mentality or victimhood, or focusing on the negative. Versus, okay, that happened. Yes. Now, how is this going to help me? How is it going to help me succeed and win? And then moving towards where you want to go. What else why else are the virtues cards, and just looking at virtues and how else can virtues raise someone's leadership bar?
Well, one of the things that we do is, just there's on the webpage, there's a couple of different tools that people can do to have practices. So one of the things that we found that's been really effective is, we talked a lot about how virtues work in our own lives, but virtues also help you. We're all part of groups. We're all part of teams. We're all part of relationships.
Yeah.
So how do you deepen those connections with other people? And often, and you and I did like a little bit of, I call that a virtues pick. What you and I did, we read a part of a virtues card. We shared. I listened to you, acknowledged you. You listened to me, and we talk about it. So there's different ways. A lot of organizations have huddles, and especially during pandemic, when we've really, where we used to all come together at different times, it's gotten a little bit more complicated sometimes. And I even think, going forward, I think whatever happens, we are now connecting with people using Zoom and other technologies that will continue on.
Yep.
So how do you connect with people in a meaningful way? And often virtues have a great way of doing that. So if you're an organization, sometimes you might be in a crunch, your whole team you're hunkering down. What do we need at this one time? It might be that perseverance again, or it might be, you just had a hard situation and people are going through a real struggling time. It might be resilience sometimes. So it allows people to connect in some ways and just openly and honestly share. I think we, and I'm saying collectively but often it's hard to listen to somebody. Sometimes people, even in the workplace, but others don't have a place to share openly and honestly and just be heard, where everybody else just sits as you don't say anything, let a person share and kind of get it off their chest. So that's, huddles are a really nice way of doing that. And sometimes huddles can be purposeful. One of my favorite expressions is connection before content. How many meetings do you jump onto on a Zoom call and all of a sudden, boom, you're into your agenda and you are talking business. It's like, wait a minute, there's 10 people in this call. Put them in breakout rooms. Let them connect for 2 or 3 minutes with each other. Give them something to talk about. Maybe you set the stage as a check-in. You give them something meaningful. You bring them back. Then you bring everybody back together again. You have them share with each other. And then, boom, now you go into the content. But boom, all of a sudden, people feel differently. They've had a chance to connect. They might have met somebody
more trust.
So there's ways of connecting. So that's just one example of how people can do it. People can also create core values and core culture. In businesses, a lot of times, what do you stand for? I often like to talk about, this world that we've gotten a lot of negativity. We're always on social media particularly, but in so many areas.
Yep.
One of the ways you say, what do you stand for? Not what are you against? And boy, what a way of reframing things.
What a way of looking at life. Yeah.
You know what? A lot of people will find that people who have totally different perspectives are for the same things.
Yeah, true.
Because you're giving them a frame. So a lot of times there's opportunities to talk, about having dialogue, creating some core values. You bring people together in an uncomfortable situation. What are we for? We're about creating fairness, because some people have been hurt in our discussion. Oh, good. This is what fairness looks like. Now, all of a sudden, you can actually make that a core value. What does that look like in your organization? And how do you practice that every day? Fairness means that in a meeting, everybody gets a chance to speak. Maybe they don't have a chance to speak because there's not enough time. Then you use the chat. That's just, a random example based on Zoom, but there are ways of looking at those kinds of things. So again, those are some ways that they can implement in groups.
Fair points. I love it. Any last thoughts for us? Any of the last thoughts for us? How else can virtues, the virtues cards, how else can they help with leadership? I love that you talked about meetings and making decisions, and how do we make decisions that are aligned with us? How do we be at our best? How are we authentic? Because when we're not, there's that grief, the guilt, the anxiety for either not behaving how we wanted or not doing what we wanted. But if we make decisions, even hard decisions that are aligned with our virtues, I think it's always best in the end, and we always feel the best way and are confident in our decisions in the end. But any other last things you have on virtues? We could have you back again because we talk about this for hours. Any of the big things about virtues? Anything else you want to mention about virtues and why they're so important, or what they can do, or a tool?
Yeah, no, it's, pardon me for the shameless plug, but we created an app called Virtues Card. We are a nonprofit, so I'm just not that makes any difference, but we serve a lot of different kind of community groups, and the Virtues Cards app is a wonderful tool, free download for a sample deck, and then each full deck is only like $4.99 for one time. So and the point that I'm bringing that up is because they are practice, and sometimes even to know what they are and what they look like, we all forget. It's like sometimes words are complicated, and justice is an interesting one. What does justice look like? So how do we implement those? And it's different in different situations. It's different, and they work together sometimes. And sometimes you need to have justice, but you're balancing it with mercy. And somewhere in there's forgiveness, because somewhere along the way in justice, somebody needs to forgive somebody else that they've done wrong. So now you're starting to look at these ways of the interacting. But first, as well as understanding what they are and what they look like, then understanding how to practice them, and knowing that it is something that you develop over your life. I mean, it's I'm a 30-year-old guy right now, and I'm constantly figuring things out and implementing them in my life. I mean, my wife is my business partner, so we get lots of opportunities to practice them, and we use them as a frame for how we dialogue with each other. So and it's not religious, it's not spiritual, it's kind of like it's just who we are. But we don't think about it that way.
And I think it's interesting because you mentioned relationships too. I mean, business is just a collection of relationships anyways. That's all business. It really, and our work really is a collection of relationships. And I think it's great, to your point, to see, who do I want to be in these relationships? How do I want to act? How do I want to behave? What do I stand for? What do I not stand for? What will I speak up against? What am I okay being flexible with? And I think it's a great way, whether it's personal or professional, work or play. I think it can really be something valuable for people to okay, what are my standards? Who am I? Where am I at? What do I want to achieve? And where are we going with this? And again, am I being who I really want to be? Yes, I'm making money, or yes, I did this, or no, I did this, or yes, I feel bad telling people no, or this makes you feel bad. But are you living your virtues? Are you being you? Yes, I'm being authentic. Okay, well then it's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. And have boundaries. It really is. And without boundaries, there's chaos in our life, and usually depression, exhaustion, burnout without boundaries. So I had one of my virtues or values, maybe it's a value or virtue, is self-care and taking care of myself too. Rest, self-care, finally listening to my body after years of not. And it's important too. So it's like, yes, there's this huge thing I could do, or opportunity, or party, or networking thing, or whatever, but no, my body's saying you need rest, so I am going to rest. And that's because versus, there's maybe a business opportunity I may lose out on, FOMO, and you go out and do something, go to a thing or an event or whatever, you take a job or whatever it is, or sign up a client that may not be for you. So I think the virtues can really help you make some great decisions and interact with people. Is this who I want to be? Am I being who I want to be right now? Or do I need to be more patient or persistent or outspoken or listening or compassionate? This has been amazing.
I love just one last thing you said, and I like that you brought the self-care, because in some ways, we're all trying to live our own best lives and have a good quality of life, and I think, I do think most people really want much of the same thing. And part of that is, to have a peaceful life, but to have good relationships, whether it's your family, your closest friend, your spouse, whether it's your within your community. So it really is important. And the relationships piece is a big piece of it. And, going back to what I said before, is sometimes just appreciating and acknowledging somebody for something good that you see in them. Thank you for your helpfulness today. I wouldn't have gotten that done without or when you get off a call with somebody saying, thanks for your service or your generous service in helping me resolve this question. Oh my God. First of all, it's powerful for you to say that, but it's also really powerful for somebody to receive that as well. And it's like, all of a sudden it's, not to get woo on you, but it raises the energy vibration. It's just like, you feel it, the other person's going to feel it. We're dudes right now. I mean, it's not to say that we're, it's not a dude thing, but, sometimes men don't always feel the ability to get in touch with their emotions.
Or connect. Exactly. Or hide or
positive way, especially in leadership. Leadership is really important.
I agree. And it's right. It's all about connection. And the more you are grateful and thank people and appreciate them, the more they're going to want to do it in the future and help you again or do it again for you. The more you
exactly.
On that note, thank you for your time, Dave. I love giving value with two people, rather. Thank you for being here with me and helping me spread a good message in the world and help people be hire more actualize. It's a word and a half, and become better leaders and achieve more of what they want to make an impact. So I appreciate you as well, recognize you for that and for helping me give some content, some value, some kick-ass people out there and make a difference in the world. So thank you again for your time. How do people reach you? We have Dave at virtuesmatter.org, www.dave. Sorry, that was my bad. www.virtuesmatter.org. That was my typo when I typed that in. Or 301-949-0414, www.virtuesmatter.com, or Dave at virtuesmatter.com. developingleaders.com. Yeah, check out the Virtues cards. Download the app, the Virtues app. Correct, Dave?
Virtues cards. Yep.
The Virtues cards app. Got it.
Virtues cards app. Yep.
Amazing, amazing. Well, keep doing the great work. Thank you, brother. Maybe we'll have you on again. We'll talk about those strategies, those 5 strategies next time. Might be an interesting conversation.
I love it.
Beautiful.
Awesome, James. Thanks for your commitment to just really bringing out good content and sharing with positive vibes with people.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Have your best